Welcome to Hey Chaplain. My name is Jared Altick, and I'm a chaplain with the police department. The Hey Chaplain podcast is a series of conversations, mostly with police officers, who say, "Hey Chaplain, I've got a story to tell and some hard-earned wisdom to share." The guests on Hey Chaplain come from across the world, from the LAPD to Scotland Yard, from Seattle to South Africa, and sometimes from my hometown of Kansas City. They are sharing their wisdom so that you don't have to learn everything the hard way. And as a patrol chaplain, I think you deserve something positive and encouraging. Today, we return to police officer JD Pettey to talk about what happens when an officer starts talking during someone else's tragedy and how badly that can go. JD's family has had a number of serious tragedies, and he was gracious enough to share those difficult memories with us because each story is an example of cops saying the wrong thing at the wrong time, even when they knew they were talking to fellow police. Obviously, this is a sensitive conversation with discussion of suicide and other tragic deaths. But this is also one of my favorite conversations I've ever had with a police officer. I think it was instructive, it was insightful, it was even funny at times. And we've all been there when you need to say the right words and instead you put your foot in your mouth. Here's JD Pettey. You've had a lot of tragedy in your life. You've had multiple siblings that have died. Can you tell me a little bit about some of what you've been through?
Yeah. A little, I got started life with 4 brothers and 2 sisters. I've lost 3 brothers to suicide, and then I lost a sister in a car accident.
Wow.
Actually, car accident's right not too far from where we're sitting, where it happened. Yeah.
And so, what ages, if you don't mind me asking? Or maybe just we'll pin it down to like what part of your life? How old were you when those deaths happened?
20s and 30s.
Okay. So you were a young man. You were maybe still in the Army, or were you a police officer?
No, I was a police officer.
Okay.
As a police officer at that point.
Okay. And so you've had multiple siblings that have taken their own life. That's not unheard of, but it's unusual. A lot of families, they have one suicide in the family, and that they live with that for a long, long time. But
you live with it forever.
How far apart were those suicides?
About a couple years each.
Okay.
So I getting through one of them, and then the other one coming up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then how far away from the sister that died in the car accident?
Every time my nervous laugh, that was like maybe 3 years, 3-4 years. I can't remember.
Okay.
That's I don't dwell on like the anniversaries of it,
Sure.
what have you.
Sure.
And I just kind of compartmentalize it. This is what happened. This is about the time of year it happened, and kind of where they happened at.
Yeah. So you've gone through some serious tragedy in your family, and that's not, again, it's rare, but it's not unheard of that people would have multiple tragic deaths, among their sibling group or among their close family. That's a very terrible thing, but it does happen. But it's interesting that as a police officer, you were repeatedly in a position to see other police officers respond out to your family.
Yeah, absolutely. That was, seeing the way other people do things is...
Yeah. And they may or may not have any idea that you're a cop, but they're out there working that scene. It's just another call to them. It's one of the worst days in the life of your family, but it's just another call to them. Can you tell me about what you've observed? Maybe we'll start with one, and then we'll go through.
So my first interaction was during one of them. he ultimately died by suicide in this way, but he had my brother had attempted suicide, and I found him. He was trying to asphyxiate himself. And so, not in the city I work in, I called 911, and it was at my folks' house. Officers come out, and the district guy's great. And we're talking, like, I'm explaining what's going on, and he's an older guy, so like he got it, He's like, he's out, and he's being professional, and he's got everything in check. He's pretty cool. Well, investigations has to come out because that's their policy. They have that.
So they send a detective.
So they send a detective, and my brother that he's a little bit of a hellraiser. So police in that jurisdiction definitely knew my brother. Officer. He was familiar with numerous officers and detectives. He's a little bit of a troublemaker. The detective is talking to the officer, and he says my brother's name, and the detective goes, "Oh, isn't he the guy that's, J this," starts naming off the things my brother's doing.
Yeah.
My brother has done, and I'm not going to sugarcoat that. My brother's no angel. He did exactly the stuff the detective was saying,
Yeah. J8's our code for narcotics.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Well, he mentioned J3. He mentioned several J.
Yeah, okay. So multiple crimes.
Yeah, multiple. Serious
Yeah.
crimes. My brother did, but the detective, and he just kind of got this attitude about it. He's this, he's that,
passing judgment.
Absolutely. And then the district guy was embarrassed. And he sat down, he goes, his brother's a policeman, and I'm pretty sure he knows what J codes are and what you're saying about his brother. And so he had like a sheepish look on his face, like, how is this going to go? And then it hit, and then went from bad to worse. And it hit me when the detective looked right at me and said, "Well, you know what your brother is, right?" And I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Why'd you try and stop him?"
Oh, it's your fault.
Well, no, I think my interpretation of what he meant by that statement was, why did you try to stop him from completing suicide?
Oh.
That's my interpretation from what went down that day. I don't know about the other stuff.
Well, I may have misheard you too. He turned to you and said, "Why did you try to stop him?"
Yeah, why did you try and stop him?
Why didn't you let him?
Yes, why didn't I let him take his life?
Oh, my goodness.
And I was a young officer, and this is a proud moment in me. I bit my tongue because I sometimes didn't always handle things the best way.
I was going to say, do you have a reputation for biting your tongue?
No, I don't.
But that time you held.
I've got a few days off from work to remind me to bite my tongue from time to time.
Well, this detective is probably, different agency, but probably senior to you. He's an older officer,
absolutely.
So,
And but that's what I gathered from him. Why'd you try to stop him from killing himself? And I said,
wow.
I said, my brother's a lot of things to a lot of people, but he's still my brother.
Yeah, yeah.
And, my mom and dad, I love him. My mom and dad love him. I got to call my mom and dad and tell them this.
Yeah.
So I just walked away. I just said, I know what my brother is, but he's still my brother.
Yeah. So foolishly thinking that, well, there's no way this civilian family is going to know our lingo. We can talk in J codes and 10 codes and whatever, and they're not going to know, which is not always true.
Right.
And then thinking that you should have let a family member complete suicide, to save them the work? I mean, what a callous thing to imply.
Yeah, family, definitely harsh on family, but, as a police officer, like,
Yeah.
So, the primary function of every law enforcement agency in this country is the preservation of life.
Yes.
We don't determine the value of that life.
No.
Our job is to preserve it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I got everything going on in my head. I'm trying to get to the hospital, make sure my brother, see whether he's going to die or not. And I'm like, I saw
There's another angle, too, especially where the district officer knew you were a cop, and eventually the detective did. That it's not that they should be doing you any favors, but there should be a courtesy, because in the metro area, we all have to work together.
Yeah, we do.
And so why alienate, why unnecessarily offend somebody that you don't have to? I mean, that's just hurting interagency cooperation and relationships. Yeah. Yeah. That seems foolish.
But, what's done is done. The bells rang. And I had so much going on. I was, I went up to take care of it. There was a point, though, I'm going to back that up. There was a point I thought about I know how police work works, and the detective comes over and goes, well, we have to do a crime scene investigation, and we need you to sign the consent so we don't have to apply for a warrant. Now, so he asked me,
let's make them jump through an extra hoop.
Yeah. Don't help us out, sign the consent so I don't have to fill out warrant paperwork, but you should you should just let your brother die, That was, I'm like, you're kind of, gutsy.
Yeah. It's short.
Gutsy or stupid, or one or the other.
Insensitive and everything else. Yeah. Well, talk to me about another episode, because you've already told me a few stories. So let's go to some of those others.
I get a call from one of my brothers, and I'm not sure whether he's high or what. And he tells me that my other brother, he had killed himself. He's like, hey, he hung himself down there, and this was down in Oklahoma. And he's like, they called me, call this, you're the cops, call this lieutenant. So I called this lieutenant up, and this lieutenant's a super nice guy on the phone.
A lieutenant from Oklahoma?
Yeah, Muskogee, Oklahoma Police Department. I feel bad I don't remember his name. I should have, because this guy was cool. He's a good dude. So he explains, I'm older, so there was no internet. There's no, doing a lot of stuff online. So you have to go in person to claim the body.
Yeah.
And get him back. So we go down there to Oklahoma, and got my mom with me and my brother with me, and go in and go to the department and see the lieutenant. And he's like, hey, can I talk to you? You're the officer, right? And I said, yeah. He said, can I talk to you one-on-one? And then we'll talk to the family. So I knew what was up. So he brings me in, and he sits down, and older guy, starts real professional. I just look at him. I said, you could talk to me like a cop. I said, I know my brother's a little bit of this one's a little bit of a hellraiser too, not quite as much. So he raised a little cane. He said, all right. He said, there'd been some problems out there at their place, and this, that, and the other. He said, this is what happened to your brother. And he just laid it out for me. And in the meantime, I had no idea. He's got, one of his staff out there make sure, my mom's got coffee, my mom's got a snack, brother, here's the bathroom, what do you need? Trying to do as much comfort as he can. Speaks to me super professional. But yet, like a police officer, like he respected me,
That sounds good so far.
Yeah. Oh, it was amazing. And he was incredible to my mom and my brother as well. And then the funny part was, with this guy, he goes, hey, he said, we got to go out the house and get this, and this. He said, you're going to have to smooth the family into signing this, because I didn't understand. So we go out to the house to get like some of his personal property and to get a document signed.
Okay.
And
like a document, like a consent to search?
No, it wasn't a consent to search. some type of release of their law was different. I didn't understand. I did not understand.
But there's some sort of legal paperwork.
Some type of document. Okay. So he's like, I kind of need you to, we don't get along too well with the family, so can you kind of smooth stuff? I said, yeah, we could do that. And he said, hey, just so while we're out there, though, just so you know, if this goes bad, he goes, I'm bringing a couple of my quality officers with him. He had another colorful term for what he called them as kickers, and you could probably fill in.
Yeah.
He goes, you give me the high sign, man, I'll arrest everybody in the house. And I was like, what for? He said, man, we'll think of something. I was like, this is getting a little nutty, but we didn't do anything like that. I think he was just trying to bond. I'm not sure that he's trying to bond with.
Well, it sounds like he's talking shop with you, but this is still your family.
Yeah, he was good, but he talked with me that way, but he didn't speak like with my family like that.
Okay.
It's like, can you just help? And so we go out.
And let's clarify too, this is not the lieutenant that was on the phone with you.
Yeah. This is?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
okay. All right.
But I think he meant it as a joke, and it just like, I'll arrest everybody there if they give you a hard time, because he was.
Okay.
And I think it was just, he meant it as a joke, but didn't necessarily come out that way.
Yeah.
And so, like, it's just one of those things. Sometimes you got to be careful with the stabby humor.
Yeah.
And I think that's where the guy was going with it. And so we go out there, we get everything done. But no, this guy was phenomenal. He's super professional with me and the family. But I think he made that one stab at humor, and it just kind of led.
Yeah, he swung and he missed.
Yeah. It happens.
Yeah. And you didn't have him arrest all the
No, we didn't have no nobody got arrested. We got all the paperwork done, and went back and come back home and had the funeral.
Yeah.
And then
wow. Was it just more that people who work in that part of town knew your brother and knew the family name and just assumed, well, everybody here is bad news?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So that's coming across. And I'm not even saying that those assumptions are wrong, because sometimes you do know, okay, we get called out to this property all the time, or this is somebody I've arrested before. You do kind of have an idea of what you may be running into. The problem isn't that you've made that assessment in your head when you get dispatched. The problem is that you're so transparently showing your disdain that other family members are picking up on it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's the problem.
Yeah. And like all officers out there, I've talked, and being an older officer now, but like, remember I was talking to older officers, we was arresting somebody one night, and he's like, they're just generations of me, because I was arresting their grandfather, and now we're arresting the grandkids, and that. So I get why officers can easily have that conclusion, like a whole family is just it happens.
Yeah. But in your case, it's not the whole family.
Right.
You had some siblings that had some trouble.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
But you're a cop.
Yeah.
You went in the military. You've been a 30-year police officer. I mean, it's not the whole family.
Right.
And really, it probably seldom is. Even if there is a family where there is kind of a family business and there's generational things,
right.
it's relatively, it's in my experience, it's seldom 100% of them.
Well, looking at it from a policeman's eyes is, we don't see the ones that are not coming in contact with law enforcement, so we don't know.
There might be a whole branch of the family
a whole
that has
pack of them that
done nothing but be responsible citizens.
Just be regular folks.
You wouldn't know that because you don't ever get called out to their place.
We don't go to their place. They're not having law enforcement contact.
Yeah.
And then I had the one that had attempted suicide, he ended up dying by suicide, by asphyxiating himself. And I was trying to talk to, and this was an agency south of the Kansas City area here, a smaller agency. And this guy, I don't know, he sounded goofy, like when I was talking to him on the phone. I was like, hey, what do we need to do to get? He's like, how do I know you're really his brother? I was like, he's like, what type of, and I said, look, I'm a police officer. He's like, he's my brother. I was like, did you see the body? Yeah. I said, okay, he's missing, these toes. I said, he's got, this mark here. I said, I can describe. Yeah. My brother, he had lost part of his foot, and so I knew where any of his tats or scars was. Like, this is what you saw when you saw my brother, unless he was fully decomped. It's like this is that's like that. That's like this. He's like, well, let me check with your department and see what type of security clearance you have. And I was like, well, dude, are you watching a movie or something? What the heck are you talking about, dude? But he was a little different.
Yeah, there's an officer who's afraid he's going to get in trouble.
Yeah.
And so
he was, and I said, dude, all I'm trying to do is figure out how to get his body up here and how we can make funeral arrangements. I'm not asking anything about your investigation or nothing like that. Do what you got to do. Yeah. So at the end of the day, we're gonna have a funeral.
Yeah.
So I got to. Don't have to. I mean, we got to get the body taken care of. Got to get him. You got to get him buried. And he was a little different. I say that.
See, my armchair analysis, just having been around hundreds and hundreds of cops, is that somebody who, right or wrong, is so sure that if they step out of line and do the wrong thing in the wrong way, that they're going to get their
tail in the ring.
They're going to get their butt chewed.
Yeah.
Okay. And so they are paralyzed. They cannot make a common sense decision that would be perfectly within policy because they're so afraid of being in trouble. Well, that's what that strikes me as. Maybe it was something different.
I don't know. But or probably he just didn't have the experience. Hey, I can't share that information with you right now.
Sure.
Which
is an acceptable answer too.
And it's super. Don't know, and that's why I think he worked at a smaller agency in kind of a rural area. So I'm
seems
sure
like it'd
he
be
didn't
easy
have
to
a
have
lot
passed
of,
you off to a supervisor. But and that's
he
why I
was
say he was
the one person on duty that day in that jurisdiction.
Yeah.
So there was no.
I do not want to call my supervisor because it's his day off, and that's right. See, I feel like we're zeroing in on a diagnosis here, but not the right thing for the family.
Right.
To stonewall and say, "Well, I need to check your security clearance," is a ridiculous answer.
Yeah, and as I just kind of chalked it up to an experience or what have you, whatever. Yeah. So, but at the time, while it's going, like anything else, hindsight's always 20/20. But in the moment, it was irritating. Yeah. Dude, I'm just trying to bury my brother, man.
Yeah,
Can you slack?
Tell me, are you comfortable talking about your sister's accident?
Yeah. It's been a while, and actually, that kind of brings us to a little brighter point. My sister was a saint.
Yeah. She was a good citizen.
Yeah, absolutely. She worked at her church.
Yeah.
She taught at the private school they had there. Yeah, she's a saint. She did, foster parenting, like emergency foster parenting. She foster parented a lot of kids. She adopted kids. She's the one that, 2:00 in the morning, the sheriff's department showing up and dropping off some kids from they taken out of a bad situation. She wouldn't bat an eye at doing it. And she'd, bring the kids in, feed them, clothe them, bathe them.
She's a good person. Let them
stay as long as they have. And she had some pretty neat stories, like with some of the kids. Like one kid woke up like, hi, and just walked over to the table and sat down and said, "Are we having cereal for breakfast?" And the kid was so numb to being drunk. Said, "Mom was drunk again," and she said, "Well, where's your daddy?" She goes, "Oh, he's in jail." And the little kid just without missing a beat, and then just asked what kind of cereal she had. Like that. I was like, she told me that story. It's like, she said that kid's been so traumatized. She was just like, okay, this is what's going on today, man. Do you have Fruit Loops? So it was. But my sister, she was a saint. So I want to talk a little bit about her just for a minute because I think you can get a sense of who she is. My sister was the worst driver on the planet. And we always joked that she would die in a car wreck.
Oh, no.
And so that's kind of the bad part. But my sister wrecked every side to a car. When I say every side, I mean front, back, both sides, top and bottom. She, raked it on the top on the garage door. She jumped immediately.
Back into things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So constantly having.
This is how bad of a driver
mishaps.
she was. She knocked over their mailbox so many times because they had a pull-up mailbox. Her husband moved it to the other side of the driveway. So she come home focused on not running over the mailbox and turned wide and ran over where he had moved it to then. But anyway, my sister was in a car accident and she passed. And
How did you get notified?
My other sister, she called me and she was just in a sheer panic. I was not making heads or tails of it. And I'm thinking the way she's acting, she's scared and carrying on. But it didn't make any sense. I was like, and her husband had just started riding a motorcycle and I'd seen him ride the bike. So I was like, this ain't good. And then she goes, finally said it. She goes, Rhonda was in a wreck. And I was like, oh boy. And I knew then. And so we go over to my other brother's house and she's there. And it was a weird moment. We were talking a little bit. And we went from there being 7 of us to 3 of us standing there. And it's like, we're all that's left. So that was kind of that was definitely a moment. But back to my sister's accident, she had turned in front of a car and hit a truck and hit her. And so we're over at the family's house and the police come, to I can't even remember why they came because we all knew everything happened, but the officer, they were going to give the death notification. I was like, we already know she's dead. I thought this whole thing was bizarre. It didn't make any sense. And he goes, well, we're going to talk to the family. And so I had talked to the officer away from the family before, and I said, what? I said, can you tell me what happened so I can kind of explain it to the family?
Yeah.
I said, and he goes, well.
And this is the officer that's going to make notification.
Yeah.
He thinks, even though you already know, he thinks he needs to go make notification.
Yeah, this is.
You intercept him first and say, okay, so tell me what happened.
Yeah. And he goes, so he described the accident. My sister, what I assume happened is she was turning left and was struck by a vehicle. So I think she was tracking one car and then didn't look back and clear the intersection and turned. And then the accident occurred. So I said, he goes, yeah, man. He goes, I was a responding officer. He goes, we got there pretty fast. He said, it took us about 20 minutes, but that's a good response time. And I was like, okay, it was odd. And I could see the officer was, he was a little uncomfortable. He's younger, definitely a younger guy. And he goes, and he said, man, and it took a while to get the ambulance there. He said, your sister was fighting, man. She was struggling. And I was just like, okay, so, and then.
Why would you tell me that? But regardless.
Yeah. And then he described, the gurgling and that. At that point, I just bit down and I said, what we're going to do is go over and tell my family that it was an unpreventable, unfortunate accident and my sister died on impact and she felt no pain. And he goes, oh no, she fought for quite a while. I said, yeah, that's not what we're going to tell my family.
Yeah.
Okay? This is what we're going to tell my family. And he goes, But we were trying to help her. I said, I said, thank you. I said, I appreciate that. I said, this is what we're telling my family. I said, and if you want some advice in the future, what you tell every family is their love. It was a horrible, unpreventable accident.
Yeah.
And their family member felt no pain. It was instant.
Yeah.
I said, why? I said, and he just had to look. I said, do you want to think about your family members struggling for and fighting for life and gurgling for air? And I think it dawned on him at that moment.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Crap. Yeah. I just said this to this guy.
Now, did he know that you were a cop?
Yeah, he did.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, the family, the family always introduces me as I'm the cop in the family.
Yeah.
Family
you get to talk to law enforcement.
Yeah, you're the duly designated law enforcement representative. So.
All right. So I do death notifications, and I'm in the hundreds now. Okay. So I've knocked on that door for every conceivable type of call you can imagine. And I teach death notifications at our police academy.
Okay.
And when I hear your story, I hear an officer who has lost track of what he needs to keep track of. What he was focused on when he came and said, this was our response time, and we were trying to render aid. He's trying to make himself feel better about his role. He's trying to justify what he did, how quickly he did it, how hard he tried. That is missing the point. When you're making a death notification, you take yourself out of it. It doesn't matter what you did. And your efforts to show how hard you worked or how hard you tried will often do exactly what happened in your scenario. It only makes it worse. So you had to try real hard. That means my loved one was really suffering. It only makes it worse. It is better to say, certainly you could just give a pat answer. They died instantly, whatever. It's better to say nothing.
Okay.
And they ask questions. Just say, I don't have that information, or I can't give that kind of information. Even I've done that a few times, which is bad because it's insinuating that you do have bad information. But it's better to say nothing.
That, and it also insinuates, I know something you don't know, and they want to know what you know.
Don't provoke their curiosity if you can avoid it. I wouldn't advocate giving them misinformation, but having compassion for them in that moment and not thinking about yourself is the right move. And so your advice to him is exactly correct, because it's moving him off of how he feels and into the position of thinking, how does the victim's family feel? Mm-hmm. And that's the right move. If you're in that zone, you will make better decisions. You will be more compassionate. You will do the right thing, regardless of exactly what you say, versus thinking, well, I feel unsettled and I feel like I need to justify when we got here and what we did when we got here, and I've got to try to explain that. No, you don't. You really don't.
Until you said that, I'd never thought about that from that perspective.
Yeah.
So, that's a good way to put it.
Well, I've been there, where either for myself or for my agency, I felt like I needed to defend us. Do not give in to that. Don't put yourself on the stand and start scrambling for a defense. Stop thinking about yourself. Start thinking about them. And you'll probably say less and make, you'll have fewer opportunities to put your foot in your mouth.
Yeah. And it's tough as an officer when you're the duly nominated spokesperson to law enforcement.
Yep.
And so you're like, how do you balance it? I'm still a family. This is still my sister.
Yes.
And I'm not.
It seems like a great place for that agency to have brought in a older, wiser chaplain to handle that for them, or at least a PIO.
Perhaps. But I've done very few death notifications. I asked on a couple. I was like, hey, I know this family, what have you. Like, I might need a little bit more coming from me, and the powers that be said, the powers that be have said yes, and the powers that be have said no, and I tell you, one of the ones I had to do that. This was a tough one. It wasn't tough on me, but it was just the way it played out. Is they couldn't get a hold of a family, and so an outside agency asked us to go to the stat and address, no phone number.
Yeah, I've done those. I've done bunches of them.
Knocked on the door, and I was like, "Hey, can you give this person a call?" And the guy just looked at me and goes, my son's dead, isn't he? And I said, I don't have that information. He just looked at me. He said, don't lie to me. And I honestly didn't have it. I said, I honestly don't have it. I said, I'm not saying that you're wrong. I was like, I truly don't have it. I said, I'm just asked to convey this message. And he goes, well, I know the lifestyle he lives, so he's either overdosed or died by suicide or got killed in a drug deal. He said, I know my son's gone. Yeah. And I said, I don't know. And then that was kind of an odd spot for me, because I was like, I'm trying to be decent to this guy. But
I had one kind of like that last week where I did know the individual had passed. And so I was making a true death notification, but it was on behalf of another agency a couple counties away.
Right.
And I'm like, I'm just here to put you in touch with them so that you can get the body from the hospital and that kind of thing. And so I didn't know how the accident happened. I didn't know what had happened. I didn't know who else was involved. I had none of that. I know that this individual's spouse had died, period. And so as she was asking me questions, I really could just say, I do not know. And that's honestly easier than when I do know. Maybe I've been on the scene, I've seen the body, I knew the level of gore involved, and then I had to filter that out. I think that's more difficult, because when you're sympathetic and you see that they're shocked and they're grieving and they're going through everything, you want to sympathize, and then you get diarrhea of the mouth and you start saying all kinds of stuff you shouldn't say. And that's dangerous territory. And I'm a talker, and so it's hard for me, and I'm biting my tongue, trying not to say too much. And that's a challenging thing I've had to navigate in doing this kind of thing.
There's so many unique challenges with how you handle so many situations, but I think a big thing is you got to kind of be sympathetic empathetic to the family.
Yeah.
The people that you're dealing with, regardless of the person's history, the family's history, your prior experiences with them.
I think our big takeaway from these stories that you've been through is to be empathetic, to be sympathetic to the family. And the best way maybe to do that is to deliberately take yourself out. Do not try to defend yourself. Do not try to defend the responding officers. Do not try to defend law enforcement as a whole. Yeah. Just take yourself out and say what you need to say, and do as little extra talking as possible.
Yeah.
Well, JD, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing. I know that you guys had some difficult things to share, and I appreciate you being transparent, opening that up for us.
No problem. Yeah. No problem. Anytime. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right.
I want to thank JD for coming in, and especially for speaking about something that's so personal. It is an excellent reminder that our routine activities as police officers and chaplains are at the same time the most sensitive and personal moments in other people's lives. On the next episode of Hey Chaplain.
The truck driven by the bomb came in. The drug dealer come riding down the street on his bicycle, which always makes me giggle. Bicycle came up, went to the passenger side, a brief conversation. He went to open the door. We intervened and made an arrest. We detained Bobby, the drug dealer, sat him on the curb, and Mom didn't want to go to jail, so she threw her car in reverse. My right foot got caught under the tire. I go to move to catch myself and snap my ankle. And then I brace myself with my left leg, and she hit me on the inner thigh and blew my knee out.
The views expressed here are the personal views of the host and our guest and do not necessarily represent the views of any law enforcement agency or its components. If you like this episode, please share it with a cop or someone who loves a cop. Thank you for listening to Hey Chaplain, and as always, let's pray for peace in our city.